I used to believe retirement meant peace. Turns out, silence hits louder than gunfire. My name's Alex McIntyre. 45. Former U.S. Army Special Forces. 2 decades kicking down doors in places most people can't even pronounce. These days, I run a security consulting firm outside a quiet Colorado town called Pine Ridge, the kind of place where neighbors wave but don't ask questions. Every morning I stand on my porch with a cup of black coffee, watching the sun crawl over the mountains. The air's sharp enough to wake the dead. Most guys would call it paradise. Me? I call it, too quiet. My daughter Leia stepped onto the porch one morning, backpack hanging off one shoulder, earbuds tangled like usual. 17 going on 25, smart, sarcastic, and the only thing keeping me grounded in civilian life. Math test, she groaned. I'm about to get wrecked. I smirked. Maybe if you plan tests like you plan Netflix binges, you'd crush it. She laughed and leaned against the railing. You didn't sleep again, did you? She knows me too well. Years in the field wired my brain to treat every creak like incoming fire. Even in a sleepy town, my instincts never shut up. Before I could answer, my wife Kristen walked out. Silk robe. Phone glued to her hand. Didn't even look up when she said, hospital shift at 9. Book club after. Book club. Yeah, right. Leia rolled her eyes the second Kristen went back inside. Their relationship had been icy lately. Honestly, mine wasn't much better. Kristen used to be my biggest supporter, the woman waiting at airports with tears and hugs after deployments. Now, she barely touched me. Always texting. Always busy. Always somewhere else. Later that day I sat in my home office, reviewing contracts for McIntyre Global Solutions, my post-military hustle. Government buildings, corporate security plans, private clients with too much money and too many enemies. Work was steady. Respectable. But the house didn't feel like home anymore. My old teammate Marcus called me while I was buried in paperwork. Dude was like a bloodhound for problems. You sound off, brother, he said. What's eating you? Nothing, I lied. Marcus snorted. You said nothing in Afghanistan right before an ambush. Don't play dumb. I stayed quiet. He lowered his voice. It's your wife, isn't it? I didn't answer, which was answer enough. That night at dinner, Kristen barely looked up from her phone. Leia tried cracking jokes to keep things light, but the tension sat at the table like an unwanted guest. When Kristen left for another girls' night, Leia leaned toward me and whispered, Dad, don't you see what's going on? My chest tightened. She's just busy. Leia's eyes softened. You don't have to pretend for me. Later, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Kristen's side of the bed stayed cold. The house felt wrong. Like a village right before an ambush, quiet in all the wrong ways. And that old voice in my head, the one that kept me alive overseas, started whispering again. Something was coming. And this time, the battlefield was my own home. The thing about combat training is, you learn to notice patterns. Tiny shifts. Weird timing. Lies that don't line up. And lately, my own house felt like hostile territory. A few days after that porch conversation, I caught Kristen getting ready in the bedroom mirror. Navy blue dress. Heels. Makeup done like she was headed to a damn gala, not a hospital volunteer shift. I buttoned my shirt slowly, watching her reflection. You look fancy for handing out soup and smiles. She paused. Just for a second. Most people wouldn't catch it. I did. There's a donor event after, she said quickly. Hospital asked me to stay. Funny thing. Those events usually happened at night. And she knew I knew that. But I just nodded. Have fun. The second she left, the room felt colder. Her perfume lingered in the air, sharper, more expensive than anything she used to wear. Marcus's voice echoed in my head. Don't ignore the signs, brother. That evening Leia was at the kitchen table pretending to study while scrolling on her phone. She perked up when I walked in. Mom texted, she said. Says she's gonna be late again. Girls' night. Again. I muttered, digging through leftovers. Yeah, she said, smirking. Those wine moms must be partying hard. I shot her a look. Easy. She hesitated, chewing her lip. Dad, you don't think she's, you know. I felt my stomach twist. Your mom's just busy. Even saying it, I didn't believe it. 2 nights later Marcus came over with a 6-pack like he owned the place. Dude leaned against my porch railing scanning the neighborhood like we were back on patrol. So, he said, popping a beer. You gonna tell me what's really going on? Nothing, I said again. Marcus laughed darkly. Man, you got that same face you had in Afghanistan when you knew a guy was lying through his teeth. And it ain't me lying. I stayed quiet. He lowered his voice. She cheating? The word hit like a gut punch. She says she's busy, I said slowly. Hospital stuff. Book clubs. Girls' nights. Marcus shook his head. You trained me better than that. Facts don't care about feelings. Over the next week I stopped ignoring details. I didn't snoop, not yet. But I watched. Monday, she said hospital shift. Came home with no badge, no paperwork, but smelled like men's cologne. Wednesday, claimed book club at her friend Jessica's place. Funny thing. I saw Jessica at the grocery store at the exact same time. Friday, non-stop texting, smiling at her phone like a teenager. The second I walked in, she flipped the screen down. Every lie felt like another data point on a mission board. Times. Locations. Smells. Body language. I tracked everything without saying a word. At dinner Leia kept trying to lighten the mood with jokes and school stories, but even she could feel the tension growing heavier every day. Nights were the worst. I'd lie awake beside Kristen while she slept peacefully, like nothing was wrong. Meanwhile my instincts screamed louder and louder. In war zones, that feeling usually meant an ambush was coming. And this time, the enemy wasn't hiding in some desert halfway across the world. It was sleeping right next to me. My gut had saved my life more times than I could count. And lately, it was screaming. It was a Tuesday evening when everything finally snapped into focus. Kristen stood by the door, slipping into heels that definitely weren't book club appropriate. Her perfume hit the air, strong, expensive, unfamiliar. Don't wait up, she said casually, grabbing her purse. I leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed. You must be speed reading lately. More book clubs this month than college professors. She smirked, cold and dismissive. Sorry, I'm not content living a boring life behind a desk like you, Alex. That jab landed harder than she probably intended. Before I could respond, the front door slammed shut behind her. The house fell silent. Leia was upstairs with her headphones on, leaving me alone with a decision I'd been avoiding for weeks. I grabbed my jacket, and my keys. Old habits kicked in fast. I kept 2 cars behind her silver sedan as she drove through town. No sudden moves. No tailgating. Timing stoplights like muscle memory from surveillance missions overseas. But she didn't head toward Jessica's house. She didn't head toward any friend's place. Instead, she pulled into the parking lot of a downtown bar known for off-duty cops and late-night drama. My stomach dropped. I parked across the street in the shadows and watched. A black Dodge Charger rolled into the lot and stopped beside her. The driver stepped out, broad shoulders, swagger, badge clipped openly to his belt like a trophy. Detective Ryan Cole. Local cop. Reputation for arrogance. Thought he owned the town. Kristen stepped out of her car and smiled, not the polite smile she gave me these days. This one was soft, girlish, alive. She walked straight into his arms. And he kissed her. Right there under the streetlight like they didn't have a care in the world. My hands tightened around the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Months of suspicion slammed into reality all at once. Seeing it, flesh and blood, hurt worse than any bullet I'd ever taken. Ryan said something, tapping his badge proudly. Kristen laughed and ran her fingers over it like it was some kind of prize. They walked into the bar hand in hand, completely oblivious to everything else. Every part of me wanted to storm in there, drag him outside, end it right then. But another voice inside my head, colder, smarter, held me back. Not yet. The next morning Kristen moved through the kitchen like nothing happened. Humming. Smiling at texts. Tilting her phone away from me. "You seem happy," I said evenly. She flashed a fake smile. "Am I not allowed to be? Just surprised book club makes you this cheerful." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Maybe if you had a life outside paperwork and medals, you'd understand excitement." Leia froze mid-bite, shocked by the harshness. Kristen grabbed her purse and left without another word. That evening I met Marcus at a dive bar on the edge of town. Dim lights. Country music humming low. "So," he said, reading my face instantly. "You followed her." I nodded once. Detective Ryan Cole. Marcus cursed under his breath. "Damn. I'm sorry, brother." "I saw them," I said quietly. Hands all over each other like teenagers. Marcus leaned forward. "You confront him now, you lose. He's got a badge. You need proof." Patience. Patience tasted like broken glass in my throat. But he was right. So I swallowed the anger, locked it away, and started planning. Because this wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was war. The night everything blew up, started like any other. I sat at the dining table going through security reports, but my focus was trash. Kristen had been upstairs all evening, whispering on the phone, door locked like she had secrets stacked to the ceiling. Leia was asleep. The house should have been peaceful. Instead, my instincts were buzzing like a live wire. That old battlefield feeling crawled up my spine, the one that whispers something bad is coming. Then the front door exploded inward. Wood splintered. Hinges ripped free. Boots thundered across my living room. "Police! Don't move!" Men in tactical gear flooded the house, black armor, rifles up, flashlights cutting through the dark. At least 8 of them. Loud. Aggressive. Sloppy. And right behind them. Detective Ryan freaking Cole. Badge shining. Smug grin like he just won the lottery. Well, he sneered. "Evening, Colonel. Or should I say, ex-colonel." I stood slowly, hands visible, heart calm the way it always got in chaos. "What is this?" Ryan spread his arms like he owned my home. "This is me taking everything from you. Your reputation. Your business. Your family." Then Kristen stepped out from the hallway. Not scared. Not confused. Standing next to him. Smiling. She walked right up to Ryan and hooked her arm through his. Then she looked at me, eyes cold, lips curled, and spit directly onto my old dress uniform hanging on the chair beside me. "He's a washed-up coward," she said. "Ryan's more of a man than you ever were." The words hit harder than any punch. Upstairs, Leia's voice cracked. "Dad?" She stood frozen at the top of the stairs in her pajamas, eyes wide, taking in the armed men, and her mother clinging to another guy. "Leia," I said calmly. "Go back to your room. Ryan laughed. Nah, kid should watch. Let her see what a real man looks like. Two officers stepped forward, yanking cuffs from their belts. Hands behind your back, old man. They were sloppy, spacing wrong, rifles loose, attention scattered. On a real battlefield they wouldn't last 10 seconds. But this wasn't war. This was my daughter's home. So I raised my hands slowly, breathing steady, locking my rage down like a steel vault. Ryan strutted closer. See the difference between us, Alex? You had medals. I got real power. The badge. The authority. And now, your wife. Kristen smirked beside him. From the stairs Leia's voice broke again. Mom, how could you? Kristen didn't even look at her. You'll understand when you're older. Your father was always weak. My fists curled, but I stayed still. Every instinct screamed to dismantle the situation. I could see every weakness in their formation. Every mistake. Every opening. But I didn't move. Because soldiers fight smart, not emotional. And I had a feeling this wasn't the end of the operation. It was just the setup. The cuffs clicked tight around my wrists, cold metal biting into my skin, but my head stayed clear. Chaos doesn't scare me. Sloppy operators don't scare me. What scared me was Leia standing on those stairs watching her world collapse. Ryan strutted around my living room like he was filming a reality show. Search everything, he barked. Find the evidence. Evidence of what? Didn't matter. This wasn't an investigation, it was a setup. One rookie started dumping my files onto the floor. Another kicked over a chair. Totally unprofessional. My old team would have laughed these guys out of the building. Kristen leaned against Ryan like she'd been waiting years for this moment. Her eyes met mine, empty, smug, almost excited. You really thought you were untouchable, she said. I didn't answer. Waste of oxygen. Instead, I focused on Leia. She was shaking, gripping the railing so tight her knuckles turned white. My kid had seen deployments, long absences, but never betrayal like this. Hey, I said softly. It's okay. Dad's got this. Ryan snapped his fingers in my face. Eyes on me, Colonel. You're done. That's when my phone started ringing on the table. Everyone froze for half a second. Ryan glanced at the screen, and his smile twitched. Unknown number. DC area code. He grabbed it before I could speak. Yeah. Police operation. Call back later. A deep voice boomed through the speaker, loud enough for everyone to hear. Put Alexander Mercer on the line. Now. The room shifted. Even the officers paused. Ryan forced a laugh. And who the hell are you? A beat of silence, then, someone who outranks your entire department. Ryan's jaw tightened. He hesitated, just long enough for doubt to creep in. He shoved the phone against my ear. You got 30 seconds. Alex, the voice said calmly, we've been watching the situation unfold. Stay calm. Do not resist. Legal teams are already moving. My chest tightened, not fear, recognition. Someone big. Someone who knew the full chessboard. Ryan snatched the phone back. This operation is legitimate. No, the voice cut him off cold. What you're doing is career suicide. The line went dead. Silence hit the room like a shockwave. Ryan's face flushed red. His confidence cracked, just a hair, but I saw it. Predator instincts. Weakness detected. Kristen's smile faded too. Ryan, what was that? Nothing, he snapped. But his voice didn't sound so sure anymore. One of the officers approached him quietly. Sir, maybe we should verify the warrant again. Ryan spun on him. You follow my orders. But the energy had shifted. The room felt different now. Less like an ambush, more like a bad plan falling apart in real time. I stood there in cuffs, breathing steady, letting the moment work. Because power isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a single phone call that makes the wolves realize they might have picked the wrong prey. Leia slowly came down the stairs, eyes locked on me. Dad, are you really okay? I gave her a small nod. Always. Ryan stepped closer, voice low and venomous. Enjoy your last few minutes of confidence, Mercer. Once we're downtown, nobody's saving you. Maybe he believed that. Maybe Kristen believed that too. But deep down, I knew something they didn't. The operation had just changed. And the real battle was finally about to start. The ride downtown felt longer than any convoy I'd ever been in. Not because I was scared, but because the silence inside that police SUV was thick with tension. 2 officers sat across from me, trying way too hard to look tough. One kept tapping his boot against the floor, nervous energy leaking out like a busted pipe. Ryan drove. Of course he did. Probably wanted the cinematic moment, dragging me personally to my downfall. Kristen followed behind us in her car. I caught a glimpse of her through the rear window earlier, talking on her phone, laughing like this was some twisted victory lap. Ryan checked me in the rearview mirror. You look too calm, he muttered. Most guys start begging by now. I shrugged slightly. Most guys aren't trained to sit through worse. He scoffed, but I saw the edge behind his eyes. That phone call earlier had crawled under his skin. We pulled into the station garage. Doors slammed. The echo bounced off concrete walls like gunfire. They walked me inside, past curious stares, whispered conversations, officers pretending not to recognize me from old news interviews. Ryan shoved paperwork onto a desk. Process him. The booking officer hesitated. Sir, there's already someone here asking about him. Ryan froze. Who? Before anyone answered, a man in a clean gray suit stepped out from a hallway. Calm posture. Sharp eyes. The kind of presence that makes rooms go quiet without trying. Alexander, he said simply, giving me a small nod. Ryan's face twisted. Who the hell are you? The man held up a badge, not local police. Not state. Something federal. Something serious. I'm here to observe, he said coolly. And ensure procedure is followed. Ryan forced a fake laugh. This is my operation. The suited man didn't blink. Then you won't mind transparency. That word hit like a hammer. Transparency. Ryan's jaw flexed. He waved officers forward anyway. Book him. Now. They sat me down for fingerprints. One rookie tried to act aggressive, pushing my shoulder harder than necessary. I didn't react. Didn't need to. The whole room already felt like a pressure cooker. Kristen walked in a few minutes later, heels clicking across the tile like she owned the building. She leaned against Ryan's desk, whispering something that made him smirk again. She looked at me. How does it feel, watching everything fall apart? I met her eyes calmly. Temporary storms don't scare me. Her smile twitched, just a little. Then another officer rushed in holding a tablet. Sir, you need to see this. Ryan grabbed it, and his confidence cracked wide open. A video was playing. Body cam footage from the raid. Officers shoving furniture. No clear warrant being shown. Ryan making off-record threats, loud and obvious. The suited man folded his arms. Interesting procedure. Ryan stammered. That footage isn't official. Oh, the man replied calmly. It's already been uploaded to an internal review server. Silence swallowed the room. The power balance shifted so hard you could practically hear it snap. Kristen stepped back slowly, her face pale now. "Ryan, what's going on?" For the first time since this nightmare started, he didn't have an answer. They finished processing me, but nobody rushed anymore. Conversations turned quiet. Eyes avoided Ryan. Even the rookie who shoved me earlier looked like he wanted to disappear. As they led me toward a holding room, Ryan leaned close and whispered, "This isn't over." I gave him a small, tired smile. I know. Because this wasn't the end of the battle. It wasn't even the real fight yet. But for the first time tonight, the hunters were starting to realize, they might be the ones walking into the trap. The holding cell smelled like cheap disinfectant and bad decisions. I sat on the cold metal bench, wrists finally free of cuffs but shoulders tight with tension. A single buzzing light overhead flickered like it couldn't decide whether to stay alive, kinda like Ryan's career right now. Outside the bars, officers walked back and forth pretending everything was normal, but the whispers gave it away. "Did you see the footage? Internal Affairs already flagged it. Cole's in deep trouble." I leaned back against the wall, letting my breathing slow. Control the environment. Control the tempo. Same rule whether you're in a war zone or a jail cell. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Ryan appeared, face darker than a thunderstorm. No smug grin now. No cocky swagger. Just raw anger simmering under his skin. He stopped at the bars. "You think you're winning?" he hissed. I shrugged. "I think you rushed an operation without backup." His jaw clenched. "You ruined everything." "No," I said calmly. "You did that yourself." He stared at me for a long second, then leaned closer. "You know what your biggest mistake was? Trusting Kristen." That hit, but not the way he expected. Pain was there, yeah, but mostly clarity. Pieces finally locking into place. "Why?" I asked quietly. "What did you promise her?" Ryan's lips curled. "Freedom. Money. A real life. She got tired of playing soldier's wife while you chased medals." My stomach twisted, not from jealousy, but from how casually he talked about destroying a family. Footsteps again. He stepped back as the suited federal agent walked into view. "Detective Cole," the man said evenly, "Internal Affairs is requesting your presence upstairs." Ryan forced a laugh. "I'm busy." That wasn't a request. Two uniformed supervisors appeared behind him, arms crossed, faces serious. Ryan glanced at me one last time, rage burning in his eyes. "This isn't over," he whispered. Then he walked away, slower than before. Less confident. Like gravity suddenly got heavier. The hallway went quiet again. A few minutes later, Kristen showed up. She stood outside the bars, arms wrapped around herself like the confidence she had earlier evaporated. "You look terrible," she said softly. "Been better," I replied. Silence stretched between us, thick, awkward, filled with years of memories now stained with betrayal. Her eyes flicked around nervously. "Ryan said you were finished. That everything was airtight." I met her gaze. "You hitched your future to a guy who kicks in doors without reading warrants." She swallowed hard. "You were never home, always gone, always cold." "I was working to build something stable," I said. "For you. For Leia." Her eyes softened for half a second, then hardened again. "It's too late now." Before I could answer, raised voices echoed from upstairs. Shouting. Doors slamming. Someone yelling Ryan's name. Kristen's face drained of color. The suited agent returned, stopping near the cell. "Alexander, your attorney is here. We're reviewing the charges, and it's not looking good, for Detective Cole." I stood slowly, muscles stiff but mind sharp. As they opened the cell door, I caught Kristen staring at me, uncertainty creeping into her expression for the first time. Things are changing fast, I said quietly. She didn't respond. Because deep down, she was starting to realize the plan she helped build was collapsing faster than anyone expected. And this battle was only just getting started. They walked me into a small interview room, gray walls, metal table, one lonely camera blinking red in the corner like it was judging everybody equally. My attorney stood when I entered, tall guy, navy suit, calm eyes that screamed, "I eat corrupt cops for breakfast." "Alex," he said, shaking my hand. "I'm Marcus Hale. Federal counsel brought me in." "Good sign already." He slid a folder across the table. "Charges are thin. Suspiciously thin. Ryan rushed everything, warrants shaky, paperwork inconsistent, chain of custody basically non-existent. Sloppy work." I smirked slightly. "Told you." Marcus leaned closer. "But here's the real kicker. Internal Affairs just pulled Ryan's access logs. He's been running unauthorized background checks on you, and transferring department resources off the books." My chest tightened, not with fear, but confirmation. This wasn't just personal. This was corruption with receipts. The door opened. The suited federal agent stepped in, closing it quietly behind him. "Gentlemen," he said, placing a tablet on the table. "We have a developing situation." He pressed play. Body cam footage rolled, but this time it wasn't just the raid. It showed Ryan meeting Kristen days earlier in a parking garage. No audio at first, then enhanced sound kicked in. "Once he's arrested," Ryan's voice said clearly, "everything transfers to you. Insurance payouts. Asset control. We both win." Kristen's voice followed, nervous but clear. "And Leia? We'll deal with the kid later." My stomach dropped like a rock. Marcus paused the video. "That's conspiracy, fraud, abuse of power, and about 10 other felonies." The agent nodded. "Internal Affairs is moving for an immediate suspension." Outside the room, voices grew louder. Someone yelling. A door slammed so hard the walls vibrated. Marcus leaned back, cracking a rare smile. "Alex, you're probably walking out of here today." For the first time since this nightmare started, real relief hit my chest. But then the door burst open. Kristen rushed inside, eyes red, makeup smeared, confidence completely shattered. "Ryan's being questioned," she blurted. "They took his badge. They're saying he set everything up." Marcus folded his arms. "He did." She turned to me, panic flooding her face. "Alex. I didn't know it would go this far." I stared at her, searching for the woman I used to trust. Hard to find her behind all the lies. "You stood beside him when they cuffed me," I said quietly. "You let Leia watch." Her lips trembled. "He told me you were hiding money, that you had another life." I thought. "You thought betrayal was easier than a conversation," I cut in. Silence hit like a hammer. The agent's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then nodded slowly. "Alexander," he said, "you're being released pending formal dismissal of charges." Those words felt unreal. Marcus gathered the paperwork. "Let's get you out of here." As we walked toward the exit, officers stepped aside. Some nodded respectfully. Others avoided eye contact completely. The power shift was obvious now, Ryan's empire collapsing in real time. Near the lobby doors, I saw Leia sitting with a social worker, clutching her backpack like a life raft. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Dad!" She ran straight into my arms, and for the first time tonight, my guard cracked completely. "I told you," I whispered. "Always." Behind us, Kristen stood frozen, watching everything unravel. And somewhere upstairs, the man who thought he controlled the game, was realizing the board had flipped. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Because when corruption collapses, it rarely goes quietly. Fresh air hit my lungs the second we stepped outside the station, sharp, cold, real. After hours under buzzing lights and dirty accusations, it felt like stepping out of a nightmare. Leia stayed glued to my side, her small hand gripping my jacket like she was afraid I'd disappear again. I crouched down and met her eyes. "You good, kiddo?" She nodded, but her voice shook. "Mom lied, didn't she?" I hesitated. Battlefield decisions were easy compared to this. "Yeah," I said gently. "She made some really bad choices." Marcus walked beside us, still on his phone coordinating with someone. "Press is already circling," he muttered. "We need to move fast." Right on cue, camera flashes exploded across the parking lot. Reporters swarmed like sharks smelling blood. "Colonel Mercer. Were you falsely arrested? Is Detective Cole under investigation? Did your wife conspire against you?" I kept my expression calm, years of media training kicking in. "No comment," I said steadily, guiding Leia toward Marcus's car. As we reached the door, Kristen's voice cut through the noise. "Alex, wait." I turned slowly. She looked nothing like the confident woman from the raid. Hair messy. Eyes swollen. Shoulders hunched like the weight of everything finally crashed down on her. "I need to talk to you," she said quietly. Marcus leaned toward me. "Your call. But keep it short." I nodded and stepped aside, keeping Leia within arm's reach. Kristen swallowed hard. "Ryan's blaming everything on me," she whispered. "Saying I manipulated him, that the plan was mine." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. "You two deserve each other's stories," I said flatly. Tears filled her eyes. "I messed up, okay? I thought you stopped caring about us. I thought, maybe I deserved something better." The words stung, but they didn't break me anymore. That part of my life already burned down. "You deserved honesty," I said calmly. "Instead you chose betrayal." She reached for my arm, I stepped back. Behind us, officers escorted Ryan out in handcuffs. No badge. No swagger. Just rage and humiliation dripping off him like sweat. His eyes locked on me. Pure hatred. "This isn't over," he shouted as reporters shoved microphones into his face. One of the reporters yelled, "Detective Cole, did you frame Colonel Mercer for personal gain?" Ryan didn't answer, but the silence said everything. Kristen watched him disappear into a patrol car, her face crumbling completely. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. I looked down at Leia, at the fear she'd carried all night, the trust she still had in me. "Start by telling the truth," I said. "To the investigators. To yourself. To your daughter." Kristen's eyes flicked toward Leia, but my kid stayed close to me, uncertain and hurt. Marcus opened the car door. "We need to roll." I gave Kristen one last look, not angry, just done. "We'll figure out custody later," I said quietly. "Right now. Leia needs stability." We got into the car. Doors shut. Engine started. As the station faded behind us, my phone buzzed with notifications, news alerts already calling the arrest a scandal. My name trending for the wrong reasons, but at least the truth was coming out. Leia leaned against my shoulder. "Are we safe now?" I kissed her forehead. "Safer than we were this morning." But deep down, I knew battles like this leave scars that don't fade overnight. And even though Ryan was in cuffs, the fallout from his lies, and Kristen's betrayal, was only just beginning. The drive home felt unreal, like the world had shifted while I was stuck inside that station fighting ghosts. Marcus kept one eye on the road and the other on his phone, scrolling through headlines popping up every few seconds. "Damn," he muttered. "Your stories everywhere." Decorated veteran framed by corrupt detective. Public opinion swinging hard in your favor. I didn't care about the headlines. I cared about the quiet kid leaning against my shoulder in the back seat, finally asleep after the longest night of her life. We pulled into the driveway just after sunrise. The house looked the same from the outside, peaceful suburban calm, like nothing had happened. Inside, it was a war zone. Drawers dumped out. Papers scattered. Furniture shoved aside by sloppy cops who thought intimidation counted as evidence. Leia's eyes widened when she walked in. They trashed everything. Temporary mess, I said gently. We'll fix it. Marcus stepped inside, scanning the damage like a crime scene analyst. Take pictures of everything, he said. We're filing civil suits, illegal search, emotional distress, the whole package. I grabbed my phone and started documenting every broken hinge, every overturned chair, every piece of our privacy they stomped on. Halfway through the kitchen, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. Mercer. A calm female voice replied. Colonel Mercer, this is Special Agent Dana Ruiz with Internal Affairs. We need you downtown later today to give an official statement. Of course they did. Understood, I said. I'll be there. She paused, then added quietly, for what it's worth, a lot of people inside the department are furious about what happened to you. That surprised me more than anything. After the call, Marcus nodded approvingly. Good. Cooperation keeps you on the high ground. While we worked, Leia sat at the table drawing quietly, little stick figures holding hands. One of them had a big badge crossed out with a red X. Kids understand more than we think. A couple hours later, another car pulled into the driveway. Kristen stepped out slowly. No makeup. No attitude. Just guilt hanging off her like a heavy coat. Leia froze when she saw her. I stepped outside before things could get messy. What do you want? I asked calmly. Kristen held up a folder. My statement, she said softly. I told investigators everything, about Ryan, about the plan, about the insurance fraud idea. They said it helps your case. I took the folder, flipping through signed pages, detailed confessions, timelines that matched everything we suspected. Why now? I asked. Her eyes filled with tears. Because I finally realized. Ryan never cared about me. He just wanted power. And I almost destroyed my family chasing the wrong life. The word sounded honest, but trust doesn't rebuild overnight. I appreciate the truth, I said. But consequences don't disappear. She nodded slowly. I know. Leia peeked through the doorway, unsure whether to come closer or run away. Kristen saw her, and her voice cracked. Hey, sweetheart. Leia hesitated, then stepped back inside without answering. That hurt to watch, for both of them. Kristen wiped her face. I'll give you space, she said quietly, walking back toward her car. As she drove away, Marcus came out onto the porch. She just handed you a legal nuke, he said. Ryan's done. I stared at the quiet street, feeling the weight of everything settling in. Ryan's career was collapsing. The truth was finally surfacing. But rebuilding a broken family was going to be a much harder mission. And deep down, I knew the next battle wouldn't be fought in courtrooms or police stations. It would be fought at home, one fragile step at a time. By the time afternoon rolled around, the house looked less like a crime scene and more like a recovery zone. Marcus had contractors coming to fix the busted door, lawyers filing paperwork faster than machine guns, and my phone buzzing non-stop with messages from old military buddies checking in. But none of that mattered as much as the silence between me and Leia. She sat on the couch hugging a pillow, eyes glued to the news playing on mute. My face flashed across the screen beside headlines screaming about corruption, betrayal, and scandal. I sat beside her slowly. You okay watching that stuff? She shrugged. I want to know what's happening, but it still feels fake. Yeah. Same here. She hesitated, then asked the question I knew was coming. Are you and Mom done forever? I took a deep breath. No battlefield training prepares you for conversations with your kid about broken marriages. I don't know yet, I said honestly. Right now, we're focusing on keeping you safe and stable. She nodded slowly, but the hurt stayed in her eyes. Before I could say more, my phone rang again. Marcus's name lit up the screen. Got news, he said the second I answered. Ryan's officially suspended. Internal Affairs found financial transfers tied to offshore accounts. He's looking at criminal charges, serious ones. I felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. Winning a fight doesn't always feel like victory when your life's in pieces. And Kristen? I asked. She's cooperating fully, Marcus replied. Prosecutors might cut her a deal depending on testimony. That sat heavy in my chest. Later that evening, we headed back downtown to give my official statement. The station felt different this time, quieter, respectful, like the building itself knew it owed me an apology. Special Agent Ruiz greeted us in a conference room. Colonel Mercer, she said, offering a firm handshake. We're sorry for what you went through. Today is about documenting your side so we can close this case properly. For the next 2 hours. I walked through everything. The raid. Ryan's threats. Kristen's involvement. The phone call that changed the tide. Every detail laid out like pieces of a battlefield map. Ruiz listened carefully, occasionally nodding or asking precise questions. Professional. Focused. Honest, a rare combo these days. When we finished, she closed her notebook. Your testimony aligns perfectly with the evidence we've collected, she said. Charges against you are officially being dropped. Those words hit harder than any victory speech. Dropped. Gone. Marcus clapped my shoulder. Told you. As we walked out, officers we passed gave respectful nods. One even whispered, "Sorry for what happened, sir." That meant more than any headline. But outside, a new problem waited. A crowd of reporters had gathered again, cameras flashing, microphones ready. Colonel Mercer. Do you forgive your wife? Are you planning to sue the department? Do you think Detective Cole targeted you out of jealousy? I paused, feeling Leia's hand squeeze mine. No family deserves to be torn apart by lies, I said calmly. Right now my focus is healing and protecting my daughter. The legal process will handle the rest. We moved through the crowd quickly, getting back into Marcus's car. As the station disappeared behind us again, Leia leaned against me. Does this mean it's finally over? I looked out the window at the fading city lights. Legally? I said softly. Almost. But emotionally, mentally, personally. The real rebuilding phase was only just beginning. And sometimes, the hardest battles start after the war is already won. The first quiet morning after everything felt stranger than the chaos. No sirens. No reporters outside. No lawyers blowing up my phone every 5 minutes. Just sunlight slipping through the kitchen window and the sound of Leia pouring cereal like a normal kid again. For the first time in days, the house felt like a home instead of a battlefield. I sat across from her sipping black coffee, watching her doodle in a notebook between bites. Little drawings of superheroes and soldiers, but this time the soldier had a big smile instead of a sad face. That one's you, she said casually, sliding the notebook toward me. I smiled. Good hair. Unrealistic muscles. She giggled, the sound hitting my chest like medicine. Then the front doorbell rang. We both froze. Old instincts kicked in instantly, scanning windows, checking sight lines. Trauma sticks around longer than you expect. I opened the door slowly. Special Agent Ruiz stood on the porch, holding a thick envelope and a neutral expression. "Morning, Colonel," she said. "Mind if I come in?" We sat at the dining table while Leia watched cartoons in the living room. Ruiz slid the envelope toward me. "Official notice," she explained. "All charges dismissed. Detective Cole has been formally arrested, abuse of authority, conspiracy, fraud, and multiple civil rights violations." I opened the packet, reading the legal language that finally cleared my name completely. Gone. Every accusation, erased. Ruiz continued, "The department is also offering a formal public apology. Press conference this afternoon." I let out a slow breath I didn't realize I'd been holding for days. "And Kristen?" I asked quietly. Ruiz hesitated. "She's cooperating fully. Prosecutors are considering reduced charges, but she'll still face legal consequences." That sat heavy, but fair. After Ruiz left, Marcus called with more updates. "Civil lawsuit against the department is moving fast," he said. "They might settle early to avoid more bad press. We're talking serious money. Money didn't fix Betrayal, but it helped rebuild stability." Later that afternoon, we watched the press conference on TV. The police chief stood behind a podium, cameras flashing. "On behalf of this department," he said, "we extend a formal apology to Colonel Alexander Mercer and his family for the unlawful actions taken by Detective Ryan Cole." Hearing those words out loud, in front of the world, felt surreal. Leia squeezed my hand. "That means everyone knows you didn't do anything wrong, right?" "Yeah," I said softly. "Now they know the truth." A couple hours later, my phone buzzed with a message from Kristen. "Can we talk? Just once?" For Leia. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Part of me wanted to ignore it forever. Another part knew healing sometimes starts with uncomfortable conversations. I showed the message to Leia. "Your call too," I said gently. "You deserve a voice in this." She thought for a minute, then nodded slowly. "Okay, but only if you're there." So we set a meeting at a neutral place, a quiet family counselor's office the next morning. That night, after Leia went to bed, I walked through the house checking locks and windows out of habit. But instead of tension, I felt something new. Closure. Ryan was behind bars. My name was clear. The world finally saw the truth. But the real mission now wasn't survival or revenge. It was rebuilding trust, healing wounds, and figuring out whether broken relationships could ever become something healthy again. And tomorrow, that next chapter would finally begin. The counselor's office smelled like lavender and awkward conversations. Soft chairs. Warm lighting. Inspirational quotes on the wall that tried way too hard to make broken families feel hopeful. Leia sat between me and Kristen on a small couch, clutching a stuffed fox like emotional armor. Kristen looked different. No attitude. No sharp edges. Just a tired woman carrying the weight of every bad decision she'd made. The counselor, Dr. Elaine Brooks, gave us a calm smile. "This is a safe space," she said gently. "No yelling. No blaming. Just honesty." Easier said than done. She turned to Leia first. "Do you want to start?" My kid hesitated, then spoke so quietly it nearly broke me. "I just want things to stop feeling scary." Silence filled the room like heavy fog. Kristen's eyes watered instantly. "I'm so sorry, baby," she whispered. "I messed up. I let someone convince me your dad was the enemy, when he wasn't." Leia didn't move closer, but she didn't pull away either. Dr. Brooks nodded toward me. "Alex, how are you feeling about everything?" I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "Angry," I admitted. "Hurt. But mostly, disappointed. I trusted my partner to have my back. Instead, she helped destroy our home. Kristen flinched but didn't argue. The counselor turned back to her. What made you vulnerable to Ryan's influence? Kristen swallowed hard. Loneliness, she said quietly. Alex was always working, always gone, and instead of talking about how I felt, I listened to someone who told me what I wanted to hear. I nodded slowly. That part. I could understand. Not excuse, but understand. For the record, I said calmly, you had every right to feel lonely. But betrayal wasn't the solution. She nodded quickly. I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to prove I'm better than that version of myself. Leia looked between us, confusion mixing with hope. Does this mean we're a family again? That question hung in the air like a fragile glass ornament. I took a breath. We'll always be a family, I said gently. But trust takes time to rebuild. Kristen added softly, and I'll do whatever work it takes, even if that means starting over slowly. The session lasted over an hour, talking about boundaries, co-parenting plans, communication rules, and therapy schedules. No dramatic hugs. No magical forgiveness. Just small, realistic steps. Afterward, we walked outside together into the cool afternoon air. Leia hesitated, then reached out and grabbed both our hands. That tiny gesture hit harder than any courtroom victory. Kristen looked at me cautiously. Thank you, for even showing up today. I nodded. This isn't about us anymore. It's about her. She agreed instantly. We stood there for a moment, three people connected by shared history and fresh scars, trying to figure out what came next. Later that evening, Marcus called with another update. Ryan's trial date is set, he said. And your civil settlement offer just came in. It's big. Life-changing big. I stared out the window at Leia laughing in the backyard, a sound I wasn't sure I'd hear again a few days ago. Money. Justice. Public redemption. All important. But the real victory wasn't happening in courtrooms anymore. It was happening in small therapy rooms, quiet conversations, and fragile moments where trust had a chance, however small, to grow back. And for the first time since the nightmare started, I felt something stronger than anger. Hope. Because sometimes, the hardest battles aren't about winning. They're about learning how to heal, together, one honest step at a time. 3 months later, life didn't look the way it used to. And honestly, that wasn't a bad thing. The civil settlement finalized faster than anyone expected. The department chose to avoid a long public trial, which meant enough financial security to rebuild the house, start fresh investments, and, most importantly, give Leia a future that didn't feel fragile anymore. Ryan's trial dominated headlines for weeks. Evidence stacked against him like sandbags in a storm. Body cam footage. Financial records. Kristen's testimony. My testimony. The courtroom became the battlefield he never prepared for. The verdict came down on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Guilty. On every major charge. I didn't feel triumph, just a quiet sense of closure. Justice wasn't about revenge, it was about stopping someone from hurting another family the way he hurt ours. Outside the courthouse, reporters shoved microphones toward me again. Colonel Mercer, what's next for you? Do you feel vindicated? Can your family recover after everything? I kept my voice steady. We're focusing on healing, stability, and building something better than what we lost. And for once, that wasn't just media training talking. Therapy sessions continued weekly. Kristen worked hard, real hard, to rebuild trust with Leia. No big dramatic gestures, just consistent effort. Showing up. Listening. Owning mistakes without excuses. We didn't rush back into marriage. We focused on co-parenting first, school events, shared dinners once a week, honest conversations guided by Dr. Brooks. Some days were awkward. Some days were heavy. But progress showed up in small ways. Like Leia laughing with both of us at the same table again. One evening, we hosted a small barbecue in the backyard. Just close friends, a few old military buddies, and neighbors who'd supported us during the chaos. String lights hung above the patio, music played softly, and for the first time in a long while, the house felt alive instead of haunted. Marcus raised a glass. "To surviving the craziest legal circus I've ever seen," he joked. Everyone laughed. Kristen stood beside me quietly. "I know we're not, us, again," she said softly. "But thank you for giving me a chance to be a better co-parent, and a better person." I nodded. Growth matters more than promises. And for the first time since the betrayal, there was no bitterness in my voice. Just cautious respect. Later that night, after everyone left, Leia sat between us on the porch steps watching fireflies blink across the yard. "Feels normal again," she said. I smiled. Not the old normal, but a stronger one. She leaned her head against my shoulder, then against Kristen's too, a quiet sign that healing was happening in its own time. As the stars came out, I thought back to the night the door exploded open. The lies. The betrayal. The fear that everything was lost. But sometimes, destruction clears space for something more honest to grow. My reputation was restored. Justice had been served. Our family wasn't perfect, maybe never would be, but it was real, stronger, and built on hard-earned truth instead of illusions. And as I watched my daughter laugh under the porch lights, I realized something powerful. The worst night of my life didn't define me. What came after, resilience, growth, forgiveness, and rebuilding from the ashes, that's what shaped the future. And for the first time in a long time, the mission wasn't survival anymore. It was living.